All right, clicker. I need a clicker. Business podcasting is different was the original presentation, but I wanted to make sure that we get into some of the potholes, some of the things that I've found over the years that podcasters have been making mistakes with, especially when it comes to business. So, business podcasting is different, and we're going to talk about why. I'm going to go through kind of quickly. You'll see me speed up and slow down on some things that are about podcasting so we can get to the parts that are about the potholes and what you'll want to avoid if you're podcasting. Now, how many of you already have branded podcasts? Most of you, great. So we're already on the road. Let's avoid some of the potholes coming up on those things, all right? So the first thing is knowing the purpose of your podcast. I'm guessing none of you are doing entertainment podcasts. You're attached to brands. So, I want to make sure you're clear on the purpose that those people are doing, because you're not those people. Your purpose isn't necessarily to entertain or to gain money from the podcast. Your format's probably a little more structured. Your tone for an entertainment podcast, that can be very wide range, and they're about pop culture, those kind of things. And the target audience can be broad, typically around a social demographic. But you're in business. It's a much different situation. Your purpose is going to be around brand awareness, building authority, possibly even as far as lead creation. Much different purpose for a business. The format should be structured or at least semi-scripted. Very important part, semi. I hate scripted podcasts. Please do not script your podcast. Semi-scripted means bullet points of your ideas, right? Your tone should be professional, could be technical. You can include some industry jargon because it is about your industry. And your target audience will be your potential customers, industry peers, possibly even employees for internal podcasts. These are aspects of a business podcast that you should always keep in mind, that you are not trying to be NPR Joe Rogan. It is a business podcast, and business podcasts are different. Some additional wins are you can overcome some content and resource challenges, and I'll show you some reasons why and how to do that in a moment. You can build relationships with industry leaders, as well as connect with potential customers and leaders in other client organizations. Those are additional wins you can get from a business podcast that are very, very different from something that's for entertainment. Also, you can create content with the faces and voices of industry leaders. Much, much different from other kinds of content. So first, let me give you some of the ideas of the production process, because even though you're already in production, many of you, there's some things that maybe some hats you didn't have going on in terms of what you were already learning that you might have jumped in and gone, wow, this is a bit more than I thought it was. So even if you have started or haven't started yet, there's some things you should know about the production process before you get started. Your production team, there's several hats to wear, from executive producer to the writer to the multimedia repurposer. Many times we jump in with a host and an editor and think that's it. We don't have a writer to prepare those semi-scripted episodes. We don't have someone to outreach to our potential guests. We're not thinking about repurposing it correctly. And even the executive producer to be kind of the quarterback of what's coming up next, what are our topics, what's our schedule. All these things must be included in your podcast team, even if someone's wearing multiple hats to accomplish all these things. So we're going to give you a quick overview of some of the production process if you don't already have this in place. Pre-production, before you do it, production, creating the episodes, and post-production, which is, of course, publishing and expanding it. I'll go into these a bit more in detail. In the pre-production stage, you want to be making sure you're looking at your strategy. Why are you creating this podcast? What are your objectives, the format, the goals, the measurement? From a scheduling standpoint, are you going to batch record? How do you make sure your guests are on schedule? What do you do if you have to reschedule your guests? This happens a lot more, we found, in business podcasting because you're scheduling executives. And believe it or not, the podcast is not their most important thing to do today, right? So there's going to be some rescheduling. Plan for that. Equipment. This can be more or less, depending on how you produce your podcast. My company, we produce everything remotely. We do video remotely, podcast remotely. So the equipment part is typically very minimal. So minimal we can send them a small kit to the host to make sure the host sound pristine. Sometimes we go as far as our clients want their guests to get kits as well, so we send them a podcast kit. The thing is, though, there's a lot less equipment to worry about nowadays because even with AI, we can improve the content, audio, sound, video sound, and post-production. We try to get it better in the first place, but post-production is also an option. So equipment isn't the biggest thing to worry about. From a production standpoint, coaching your host and your guests, you want to make sure they know how to appear on camera or on audio, how to speak up, how to use a microphone so they're not talking to the microphone, talking like this because they keep turning their head. These little things, the producer of the podcast or helping them record make a huge difference. Recording, is it real-time? Real-time quality checks, note-taking of what happened. Hey, at 5 minutes and 5 seconds, somebody had a coughing fit. Be sure to take that out. Note-taking is very important. And then, of course, editing, making the audio sound great, the cuts, mastering, equalizing it. There's a thing about production where when you listen to a podcast, you may get tired of listening and decide to change channel or go to another podcast. You may not know, or your listeners may not know why they stopped listening. They just decided not to. They have a choice. So a good example I give is if you're on a Zoom call with your company and someone looks or sounds horrible, you're obligated to be there. You have to listen to that person with the air condition and the bad microphone. But a podcast listener has a choice. They may not know why they didn't listen anymore, but what you need to know is there's a psychology to the quality of the audio. If a person's voice is clear and soothing, they'll listen longer. It's not like a Zoom conference where you'll put up with an AM radio sounding microphone. There's a difference. Post-production, of course, the publishing part, where you're going to upload it, adding the metadata. It just gets involved with your writers and your SEO experts to make sure all those things are in place. The repurposing of creating clips and audiograms, and sometimes when you use a PowerPoint, somebody else's computer, things get messed up. Promotion, your guest content pack, I'll talk about this in a moment. There's a section on promotion. But these are all things you want to consider in post-production. So, speaking of promotion, guess what? You're not in the podcast business, unless you're a competitor, perhaps. Is anybody in the podcast business? Okay. Spy from me, not him, no kidding. One person in the whole room is actually in the podcast business. Keep in mind that that's not your business. The podcast is to promote your business. So when you go searching on YouTube for information about podcasting, you're going to find mostly information from people who are in the podcast business, who want to promote their podcast as their business. So you're not. So let's talk about some of the key areas you want to focus on in promoting your podcast. Helping your guests promote, email promotion, the website journey, and repurposing in social media. These are the main 5 areas you want to focus on.